A renewed bipartisan push tonight to bring more transparency to the highest court in the country. Democratic Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, along with Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, have reintroduced a bill that would compel the Supreme Court to televise its open court sessions and in turn give the American public a very rare glimpse into these proceedings and debates over the decisions that impact every single American. And I will tell you right now, I for one think that this is the right move. In fact, I think it's long overdue, not only in the interest of transparency, but I actually think it would serve the public well. Now, this legislation would mandate televised Supreme Court sessions with the exception of when a majority of the 9 justices ruled that coverage would violate the due process rights of any party appearing before the court. This bill was actually already approved in committee in 2021, but it didn't advance through Congress. But with the reintroduction of the bill, Senator Durbin tweeting, quote, "As trust in the court hovers near an all-time low, shining a light into the SCOTUS chamber would help strengthen our democracy." Now, when Supreme Court justices agree to interviews on their personal time, there's undoubtedly going to be cameras present. And that was the case in 2018 when Chief Justice Roberts was asked about cameras in the court.
I think it'd be very helpful in getting more people familiar with how the court operates. But that's not our job, to educate people. Our job is to carry out our role under the Constitution, to interpret the Constitution and laws according to the rule of law. And I think that having cameras in the courtroom would impede that process.
And the late Justice Antonin Scalia took his stance against bringing cameras into the courtroom even further, pointing the finger at the media as to why he thought it was a dangerous idea.
If I really thought it would educate the American people, I would be all for it. If the American people sat down and watched our proceedings gavel to gavel, but they wouldn't see all of that.
But we get
your outfit would carry it all,
but we get
to be sure. But what most of the American people would see would be 30-second, 15-second takeouts from our argument, and those takeouts would not be characteristic of what we do.
But what's the alternative? What we have now? These 9 justices are making decisions that'll impact Americans for decades to come. In many cases, abortion, Obamacare, gun control. Right now, the best the American people have to understand these vital court hearings is live audio, which is still fairly new. It began in 2020 because of the pandemic. Otherwise, before the decisions come down, all you might see are the news stories covering the arguments of case before the court is this type of file footage like you're seeing right now. Or, of course, how could I forget the classic courtroom sketches? Supreme Court's decisions are just too important to not have a live look at the arguments. And I think it is time to bring the highest court in the country into the 21st century. But I want to hear what my guest thinks. John Duffy, law professor at the University of Virginia. He clerked for the late Justice Antonin Scalia and is litigated before the Supreme Court. So look, I'm of the opinion I think it's a great thing. I think it's important for the public to see it. I think it is an aspect of transparency. And by the way, I'll just add this real quick. You know, in a case when Supreme Court justices argue with one another, I think it's the most civilized, professional debate. And in a country where we are so divided, maybe that's a good thing for the American people to see. I'll give you the floor.
So first, I would think that I would oppose this statute as a bill to force the Supreme Court to do it. I think Congress should respect a coordinate branch of government and have their choice control. So that's the first thing. I would oppose this legislation. The second question is whether the court itself should add cameras. And I'm for a gradualist approach. That's what they did with audio. They began recording audio back in 1955, but very few people knew it. In 2000, with the Bush v. Gore case, they did the first release of audio on the same day. And then they began releasing more and more cases until they eventually began releasing them every week. And then, as you mentioned, in 2020, with the pandemic, they began releasing live audio, as well as the full transcript and the audio file later that day. And that's a progression that I think the court should take. The court should take a gradualist approach to this for many reasons. They value their anonymity. Justice Scalia, the late Justice Scalia was right.
But let me just push on that. Everybody knows who they are, and these transcripts are out. I mean, it's not like they're a grand jury or a jury where we don't know who they are. We know who they are. We know their ideologies. I don't get the privacy argument that much.
It's just true that if somebody's on TV every other night on the news, that people get to know them better. There are pictures, of course, of all the justices, but that was true when I was clerking and I saw justices walking down the street and nobody recognized them.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.